This video is made possible by NordVPN. Start protecting your internet experience today at nordvpn.com/TopTenz and use code TopTenz to get 70% off NordVPN. It's only $3.49 a month, plus a month for free, and let's get into it. We are fortunate enough to live in an incredibly advanced age where we can buy things on Amazon and have them at our doorstep within a day or two. We can instantly communicate with anyone around the globe and have access to precisely all of the crying Michael Jordan memes that were ever created. But with that massive power at our fingertips comes immense responsibility and an even greater need for security. Hackers have wormed their way into the very fabric of our lives. Sometimes the damage can be fixed with a simple virus protection program. Other times it can bring a country to its knees. In the video today, we're looking at some of the most impressive hacks that were ever unleashed upon the world. Number 10. The Bitcoin hack. Cryptocurrency is a concept that not a lot of people really understand, let alone use. But the people that use it really use it. Basically, it's a digital currency that uses encryption security measures and is independent of a normal bank. There's no physical, tangible money. Now you might ask, but that doesn't seem like a real thing, and we would probably agree. A major Bitcoin company in South Korea lost about 30% of its virtual money holdings, which led to about a $30 billion loss for cryptocurrency overall in just 7 hours of trading. It caused the price of Bitcoin to drop around 7% almost instantly. Now, this is all interesting, as the very idea of cryptocurrency is its inherent safety, which is paramount online. The fact that an encrypted digital currency can be undone in a day of hacking raises strong concerns about its longevity. Number 9. The Conficker worm. 2008 might not seem very long ago, but in the digital age, that's like decades. Whole hardware and operating systems that were ubiquitous at the time have been rendered obsolete. So it's strange to hear that a simple computer virus that was prevalent at the time is still loitering around in the digital wasteland. The Conficker worm was discovered in 2008 when it infected around 15 million computers due to its ability to be shared easily and spread through software and removable media devices. This virus is different though. Conficker doesn't even steal data. Its method is to spread to as many computers as possible and disrupt things that way. Even as recently as 2017, there were several million successful infections of computers. One of the most common ways it happens are unpatched computers on a network. Word to the wise, those annoying software updates, they're your friend. Number 8. The Iran nuke hack. The 1983 Matthew Broderick movie, War Games, dealt with the vulnerabilities of military systems to motivated hackers. In the film, he toyed with the Defense Department and eventually scared the pants off everyone, making it seem like a Russian nuke launch was imminent. You would think that the systems in place to make nuclear winter possible would be secure enough to not be susceptible to computer shenanigans. Right? Well, the country of Iran would tell you that it's not so absurd. In 2010, a virus named Stuxnet invaded their nuclear systems, a product of Israeli-American computer wizardry. The virus targeted Iran's centrifuges, which helped enrich uranium that would be used for nuclear weapons. The bug would spin those centrifuges until they busted, all while reporting everything was normal. Eventually, up to 20% of the country's centrifuges were useless, and this was all done over a couple of years. Everything was going fine until Israel ramped up the program to be more aggressive and Iran became wise to the plan. It has since set off a rash of hacked public services and secret government programs around the globe. All of this hailed from a tiny virus no bigger than 500 kilobytes. Number 7. Spamhaus. The Spamhaus project is an organization whose entire purpose is tracking and fighting spam. The group scours the internet to find the worst of the spammers and compiles them into a list. Some estimates put their success rate at 80%, meaning 80% of all the spam gets blocked. One group that drew the ire of Spamhaus was Cyberbunker. Cyberbunker stores the data and content of literally almost anyone, except for child porn and anything related to terrorism. Their words. Spamhaus blacklisted Cyberbunker, claiming they allowed themselves to be used as a host for mega spammers. Cyberbunker didn't react well to being ostracized, and although they claimed they had nothing to do with it, someone likely took their side and initiated the largest cyber attack in history. In what's called a DDoS attack, where a website is flooded with requests to the point of crashing, Spamhaus was knocked offline and internet around the globe was slowed down. A reported 100,000 servers were used to inundate the site, and more bandwidth was taken up than any other attack ever attempted. That is a serious overreaction to wanting less ads for genital enhancement in people's inboxes. Number 6. The Melissa virus. The growing pains of the early internet age. It seems so innocent, but even as your AOL connection page started screeching its demonic language, there could have been one of the early net viruses worming its way into your prehistoric computer. The Melissa virus of 1999 was a document widely shared online in which there were promises of all sorts of passwords to get into paid porn sites. The documents attached to the emails were opened, a bum Microsoft Word doc, and the malicious virus took over from there. It would then hack into the user's email program and mass send itself to 50 of the recipient's contacts. In those days, there wasn't so much on people's computers that was sensitive, but it did wreak havoc on the business world, shutting down servers at companies as big as Microsoft. All told, the virus hit up to more than 1 million computers and affected 20% of North American businesses, while racking up $80 million in computer damages. Just before we get into the top 5 today, don't fall victim to a hack online, and make sure you're using NordVPN. If you're buying things online and using a public Wi-Fi spot, think coffee shops, airports, etc., you really should be using a VPN, and that's when NordVPN comes in. I know it's tempting to not bother and sort of just hope for the best. I would know, I have been there, but really the stories that you hear in today's video and here in general in the press, they do happen, and you don't want to be a victim yourself. Whenever I'm browsing on public Wi-Fi, I just keep NordVPN on in the background so that I don't have to worry about anyone stealing my data. But it's also not just about security. You can also change the country in the app so that you appear to be somewhere else, so you can watch content that might only be available in specific geographic locations. NordVPN is super fast, so watching videos is a breeze, no lag whatsoever. And if you've ever used VPNs in the past and thought, they're kind of slow, not the case with NordVPN. You can also use it on 6 different devices with 1 account. Also, there are no logs at all, like with companies based in the EU or US. NordVPN is over in Panama, so they don't have to keep logs at all. Great for your privacy. Indeed, they're the only VPN to get a perfect score from PC Mag. So start protecting your internet experience today at nordvpn.com/TopTenz and use the code TopTenz to get 70% off NordVPN. It's only $3.49 a month, plus you get a month for free. And let's get into those top 5. Number 5. The Fappening. Surely it's not surprising that in the digital age, people are taking advantage of apps like Snapchat and other texting options to send each other photos of their nether bits. But it becomes an even bigger deal when we find out celebrities are doing the same things that we are. Going back to leaked sex tapes of Kim Kardashian and Pam and Tommy Lee, the spectre of celebrity genitalia sets the world on fire. But nothing on the level of 2014's mass image dump of hacked iCloud photos, lovably known as the Fappening. Almost 500 photos were leaked to the Notorious 4chan site of celebrities in the buff, stolen from private iCloud accounts. Apple itself has seemingly had the reputation of being a closed system that is difficult to hack, but those responsible for the hack were well versed in a technique called spear phishing, which involves gathering all the personal info on a target and then hacking their sensitive material. The FBI was quickly on the case, eventually tracking the work to a few hackers who were spread throughout the United States, and then they earned various prison stints for their actions. Number 4. 2016 FBI hack. One Justice Department employee's email account. That's all it took for a hacker to become privy to every single person who works for the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security. From that compromised account, he was able to download roughly 200 gigabytes of incredibly sensitive information, like a real version of the Mission Impossible knock list. He then tricked a DOJ rep into giving him access to the database itself. The names, rank, and personal information of nearly 30,000 employees who work in a very guarded profession immediately had their cover blown. Phone numbers and email addresses were made public, and the hacker stated he had credit card numbers as well. The hacks were apparently done by someone with pro-Palestine sympathies. That someone, it turned out, was a 16-year-old teenager living in England. Number 3. One writer at Wired had his whole life erased and his gadgets frozen in minutes. Matt Honan was a tech writer for Wired in 2012. When hackers wormed their way into his Google account, he became a nobody in the space of an hour. At first, the hackers made 80 years of email correspondences just vanish. They then took to Twitter next to issue homophobic slurs and racist rants before deleting photos off his Apple devices. They invaded every corner of his digital life. Think of every interaction or post or photo you've ever been a part of in your existence on the internet. They thought of all of it and basically made him disappear, digitally speaking. Once his Apple ID was compromised, they remotely erased every single thing throughout all his devices. He could have stopped the hackers in their tracks if he utilized the extra layer of security that Google offers, his fault, but once they started exploiting security lapses within Amazon and Apple, they were able to unleash a lot more damage. Through it all, the hacker known as Phobia was in constant contact. Phobia still hasn't had to pay for his actions, though investigators may be getting closer to finding out his identity. Number 2. OPM hack. We mentioned earlier how FBI and Department of Homeland Security personal information was severely compromised in 2016. Well, just a year before that, another government agency found that they had also been hacked. This time, it was the Office of Personnel Management, which is in charge of all the civilians working for the US government. The OPM's IT department came across the hack first when they noticed a bunch of forms used for background checks for their employees had been whisked away. And when we say a bunch, we mean millions. Oh, and also fingerprint records went missing as well. The hack itself had been in progress for the previous 2 years, and the OPM was actually onto them by 2014, but allowed them to keep working in order to gain intelligence on them. Unfortunately, for millions and millions of civilian government employees, this extra time just allowed the hackers to gain more and more clearance into OPM systems. The attacks were blamed on China-backed hackers, and in 2017, a Chinese man was arrested for reasons related to the OPM hack, even though it wasn't directly stated that that was the case. Number 1. DNC and election hack. There has been a veritable storm of crap related to Russia and just how far they got into influencing the 2016 US presidential election. It's such an all-encompassing story, and the tentacles spread so far that it's almost impossible to wrap one's head around the main crux of it all, and that's that the election systems in every state and the Democratic National Committee itself were hacked in 2016, and that Russian hackers were likely behind it all. DNC servers had Russian digital fingerprints all over them, and it was discovered in June that year that they'd likely been compromised for almost a year. Using malware, they published documents clearly meant to turn the elections in the Republicans' favor. It went further. Other hackers went after the election cyber infrastructure located in each state, attacking them and pulling voter registrations and sample ballots. And while it's not clear if they were able to actually change votes, we may never know just how far the hackers made it into one of America's most revered institutions. So I really hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe. We've got brand new videos just like this every day of the week. When you're subscribing, make sure you hit that bell so you actually find out when we put out a new video. Also, why not check out my other channel? It's called Geographics. It's geography themed, obviously. That is linked to below. And as always, thank you for watching.